we're charging for these impound fees?
It's less than 10,000, I wanna say it's more like 5,000 when it comes to all the impound fees altogether, it's not,
Yeah, I think the total you gave me was right about $4,000.
you know.
Well, I would move to amend the ordinance then from $10 per day to $15 per day.
I'll second
what
that.
basis?
I'll second that based on the fact that, you know, in the theory of trying to capture some of our costs, it's certainly not going to make up those dollars. But it's meant to, we have to try to cover the costs of feeding those animals and that type of thing. And if everybody did what they were supposed to do with their animals, we wouldn't have this issue. So it becomes kind of one of those cases where, and I think that graduated scale, the first time it's $25 and we get the dog back. The second time when grandma's dog gets out, we get it back to her, we tell her, get your son to fix your fence so the dog doesn't get out. And the third time is, grandma, we have a problem and we need to fix it because it's now become a large penalty. And I kind of think there's a piece of that in the impound fees and stuff like that, I would like to think that if they were detrimental, or if they were a little bit high, then people would be a little more
Attention to it.
pay attention to taking care of the animals.
Do we know what our costs are?
Which cost?
The boarding cost for a day? That's what we're talking about, right? The boarding cost?
No, we're talking about the feeding well,
Yeah, boarding
Well,
costs.
yeah.
Boarding costs.
But Sean's statement earlier, a few minutes ago, was when you look at animal control budget, and that's 2 employees, if we're gonna worry about paying for feed, that's one thing, but if we're paying for the entire program, we don't get close.
I guess my question would be, is it legal to pay for the entire program, including personnel costs, out of the boarding fees?
Might cost us more to go after and get those dollars, to get them back.
You would probably end up with a lot of animals.
Yeah, I think we will end up owning a lot of animals if we continue raising these fees. I think capturing our cost,
Is within reason.
within reason.
I would defer to legal, but I would believe, Councilman, that you could probably take last year's total cost and divide it by the number of animals impounded last year and come up with an average cost for each one, and that becomes your basis
I think
for
you'd
next year. but
you'd
you
be
wouldn't get-
authorized to charge some overhead too, as far as other costs, as they come to the city and have to pay and get a receipt, don't
Well,
they?
for tonight's sake, we can go ahead and vote on this particular one, but then RJ can send us out some information on it.
Well, and I can tell you that, I believe the lowest cost we got it down to with the currently approved agreement with what the city of Washougal impounded last year came out to roughly right at $1,250 per animal. For the number of canines impounded is what that came out to, so that gives you an idea.
Thank you.
Fortunately, my wife would pay that for our animals to get them back out.
Mr. Mayor, I actually rise against the amendment for the reasons that were echoed earlier. With regards to the boarding fee, we're being charged $10. I think it's not fair for the city to be charged $10 for a facility that we are basically underwriting when we're only charging the owner $5. So it makes sense to just have that cost be passed directly through to the owner. But regarding the punishment to the owner, if you will, which is what we're talking about, and getting some sort of monetary punishment going there, our impoundment fees that are added on top of the boarding costs, I believe, already capture that. And so if we're going to amend anything, I would suggest that it should be amended there as far as the $25, $75, $150. I don't support increasing the boarding fee over what the boarding fee actually is from the facility. So anyway, that's my point.
I agree. I don't think we should increase the boarding fee. I think we should take another look at the impoundment.
Other comments? Okay, I believe I heard a motion and a second to increase the fees to $15 per day. If no more comments, we're gonna call for a vote on that item. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No?
Roll call?
Councilmember Coaston,
Aye.
Councilmember Shoemaker,
Aye.
Councilmember McDaniel,
No?
Councilmember Delavar,
No.
Councilmember Greenlee,
Aye.
Councilmember Morris.
Motion passes, so we're now at $15 per day being inserted into the language instead of 10. Other comments before we pass on the underlying motion? I've got a motion by Councilman Greenlee, second by Councilmember McDaniel to pass, post, and publish the ordinance. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No?
Motion carries. You're right, Rod. You were correct. Agenda Bill 22-10, the professional services agreement with West Columbia Gorge Humane Society. Chief?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. The present contract, or the contract that we had between the City of Washougal and the West Columbia Gorge Humane Society expired December 31st of 2007. This agreement was renewed with minor updates added to the contract, added to the prior contract. The contract authorizes payment for the services provided by West Columbia Gorge Humane Society of $25,000 annually, plus $10 per day for dogs impounded by the city. The service of the contractor is to commence as soon as practical after the execution of this agreement and will be completed as of December 31st, 2010. The recommended action, authorize the mayor to sign the professional service agreement with West Columbia Gorge Humane Society.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we authorize the mayor to sign the professional service agreement with West Columbia Gorge Humane Society.
Second?
Mr. Mayor?
Questions? Yes.
All right, in order to make this consistent, we should amend the $10 to reflect $15.
Actually, that's what they charge
That's what they
us.
charge us.
Oh, never mind. Okay, very good. Although, there is two small items I just wanted to point out. Under section 10 on page 4, the R in the word "or" in the middle of the paragraph in the middle of the page is actually missing. It says claims, damages, losses, liability, or expenses. And that should be expenses, I believe. I'm not positive. At any rate, that's just one thing there. And this I find kind of amusing, but on page 10, I think there's some editorial language that was inserted here. Just pointing it out, I don't know if you guys care about changing it or not. Under pursuit of grants, it says the society agrees to diligently pursue grants relative to humane activities. The next sentence is, they want to be sure we are not just relying on city funding. I think that was intended to be editorial. I don't think it changes the intent of the contract at all. Those are the only things I have moving forward.
I don't even remember what all was in that. It was actually a longer paragraph that I redlined the next two sentences, and I don't even remember what they were reading that portion of it, so. Any other questions in regards to the new service agreement?
Just a comment.
Yes.
Knowing that, I think we all know, maybe the exception of Mr. Shoemaker, exactly how strong a lobby this group presented for us last year. And frankly, I hope that they are aware